friends, welcome to Cinema Conversation. You probably have a myriad of questions. Why are we wearing masks? What was with the video not being there last week? Well, let's clear up a few things. We've had a couple serious videos the past few weeks. And that's because we needed to have them. Two people, speaking to 10 viewers, we can make a difference that way. And, but now let's get back to the silly things, why we started doing this in the first place. And it got me thinking about a conversation Dad and I had a couple months ago. That was just a conversation in the car, two guys arguing about movies. And that's what I wanted to do. When I had this idea back in December of 2019, that's what I wanted it to be like. I always envisioned it as like two movie-obsessed video store clerks arguing about movies. Two friends talking about movies over coffee. And in, talking about that, we've had to talk about some tough things. And I know I was kind of hard on Marvel movies last week. And I'm not saying that they're bad. They're good for what they are, but I mean, they're just not art. They're not like with the other movies. And also some things to clear up. We had some pesky commenters last week that, our video last week that we got rid of as soon as possible. They were blocked. Their comments were deleted. But if something like that happens again, just remember it's just a scammer and not to click their link, because that's what they want you to do, and then your computer gets filled with viruses. And I don't think anybody wants that. So, again, we're going to be talking about something a little silly, but first, the reason we didn't have a video last week is I was out of town. I was in Florida. I went for the beach for a few days, got some much needed relaxation time. And, it was good to get out of the house. But I was in Florida, which was a hotspot for COVID-19. I got tested yesterday. No need to worry about me. But we're going to talk about something fun because God knows we need a distraction from all the, chaos that's going on in the world, right?
Right.
So we're going to have a debate, which, I know it's called Cinema Conversation, but we're going to start doing cinema debates. I'll be in the affirmative, Dad will be in the negative, and any of the negative things that he brings up, I will back up with my own affirmative. I know that's not how debates are usually done, but it's my show. We're going to be talking about, could I, Jack Ellis, right now, pull off a heist? More specifically, more broadly, more simpler, a bank robbery. You've probably seen bank robberies in Heat, Point Break, Going in Style, The Dark Knight, Baby Driver. All those. They're everywhere. It's, those statistics say that, the average pull for a bank robbery is maybe $8,000. But we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on if I were robbing a bank in a movie. Why are we talking about this? Because I actually wrote a movie where a guy robs a bank. But anyway, are you prepared to make your opening statement for this debate? This is a really candid argument. There's not a lot scripted. We're just kind of talking off the top of our head. So, let's start.
Sure. Well, I think it's a really complicated process to rob a bank, and number one, to get the money, and then number two, to get away with it without being caught. There's a lot of different defenses that you have to overcome from the time you walk in the door until the time you spend the money that's going to keep you from getting caught. So it's a lot of hurdles you have to clear.
So as a guy who's lived and breathed heist movies, I actually, okay, if FBI agents or Moorhead Police Department cops are watching this, first of all, I'd like to thank all the members of the Moorhead Police Law Enforcement for joining us. Name the movie. It's really cool that we have law enforcement watching our show, but I do not condone this kind of behavior. They're good movies, but, you know, we don't want anybody to get hurt or get scared. We just like talking about movies and heist movies, you know. So the thing that's integral is time, evidence, and a good crew. Now, in things like the Joker heist from The Dark Knight or Ocean's 11, you know that a good crew can make the robbery, make or break the robbery. And so, first we have to start with cars, getaway cars. Now, I would have one regular car. You probably need to have two cars if you want to get away with it. But you can also just have one car and switch the license plates. But that's not what I'm going to do because that's just not theatric enough. So I'm going to have one car, one regular car that people are going to see. I know they're going to see it. And then I have one getaway car. So what we do is after the robbery, we take the first car into a secluded location, put all the evidence in it, and then torch it, burn it. All the evidence goes up in flames. Now that may seem easy, but you know, that's how it's done in movies. We're not saying this in a realistic way. We're saying this in a movie way. If I were robbing a bank in a movie, how would I do it? So anyway, and then my getaway car of choice would be a UPS truck. Who's going to suspect a UPS truck? They're everywhere. And still, you know, it can make an easy getaway. You could also use something like a dump truck or a semi-truck.
Right.
You know, but the importance is to blend in and not be suspected. And you know, some people use vans and they pretend to be ambulances or SWAT cars or plumbing companies or electricians. You know, all those things. All those things could work. But my choice, because I live in Moorhead, Kentucky during COVID-19, would have to be a UPS truck. Because they're everywhere. And then, the time. We have to be in and out of there in a smash and grab job, as they say, in 90 seconds. No more, or, 90 seconds to 2 minutes. No more than 2 minutes. And here's why. So, we don't go to the vault. That would take too much time it would be, and I don't, I've been to, like, banks, but, like, I don't know what's in the vault, actually. Like, I don't think they have just, like, piles of money just ready to be robbed, you know. If they do, good on them, because they're making it easy for us.
Well, yeah.
But it would just take too much time. It'd be all the risk, none of the reward. And also, we can get the most amount of money if we just go through the drawers. Now, and, we'd have to have probably 5 guys. 2 on crowd control, 2 to collect the money, and 1 technician, 1 inside guy. That's about 6 guys that know about it. The inside guy lets us know the ins and outs of the security. The technician, he traces the silent alarm. He turns off all the security cameras. And, and that sort of thing. And then we have the guys keeping everybody down, keeping time. We zip tie the doors so nobody can come in. We have 1 guy watching to make sure no cop cars are passing by. And the thing about it is, silent alarms response time can be really quick. And that's why we don't want the silent alarm. And so that's why we need a really good crew. Good time, good crew, good getaway. And, the key is not violence. And you never take a hostage during a bank robbery. That's, because if you get pinched, you'll get kidnapping. And you never want to hurt anybody. That's assault and battery. If you have armed robbery, you might make bail and parole, and you might get an easier jail time. But we're only thinking in hypotheticals here. And, you've probably seen movies like The Town, where they that you gotta get hard, you gotta go hard, you gotta take control of the situation, and you gotta intimidate. Not violence, intimidate. You have to take control of the situation. And that's really, for a simple bank robbery in a small town like ours, that's really the best we can do. You know, you see movies like The Dark Knight where people are ziplining across rooftops and, you know, they're planning it like the CIA might plan a raid. You know, we can't do that. We're just, you know, ours would be less like The Dark Knight and more like the robbery in Hell or High Water. But anyway, you think I probably sound like a crazy person, and that's fair. But you know, I like to watch YouTubers, like Vanity Fair True Crime or BuzzFeed Unsolved, or my favorite. Please go check him out, Larry Lawton. He used to be a jewel thief. He did time, and now he, you know, helps the FBI catch jewel thieves. He really turned his life around, and I highly recommend you go check out his channel. And so yeah, that's how I do the basic execution. Now, what is important is that you disguise your voice and your body. That means body armor, masks, and gloves, and weapons. And you can't burn guns, so you'd have to bury them, because burning a gun is really hard. Yeah, I would probably dress up as like horror movie villains, Michael, Freddy, Jason, those people, and you know, I'd wear gloves, body armor, and yeah, that's about it. That's probably my execution of the bank robbery. What's your next point?
Well, I mean, a lot of times that money is traceable. They might have die packs, serial numbers that they have written down for the money. You know, there may be ways that they could follow where it goes.
Yeah, like tracers. The thing is that, you know, bankers, they might try to pull this out on along. They might try to give you die packs and tracers, but they will never endanger lives to do it. So if you say no die packs, no tracers, or no funny business, then they, more often than not, will do it, unless you have like some, you know, Charles Bronson type guy who's going to try to stop the whole robbery, you know. If you've ever seen Reservoir Dogs, in the words of Mr. White, if some guy comes over to you thinking he's Charles Bronson, break his nose with the butt of your gun. So yeah, that's really the thing. And I would have my guys, you know, there's enough time to check for die packs and tracers, especially if you go behind the counter. So if you go behind the counter, you can flip through the money, and die packs are not exactly a hard thing to find. So yeah, that's probably how I keep from, you know, being traced or anything like that.
And how are you going to keep your crew quiet? People have a way of talking about stuff like that.
That's the hardest part. Is if I were doing this, the scariest part would be a Henry Hill.
Yeah.
Somebody who, or you know, even worse, an undercover agent. Somebody, Mr. Orange, Donnie Brascoing me.
Right.
So those are the two probably, because the most hurtful thing to a life of crime is an inside guy. So yeah, if I were robbing a bank, one of the things that Larry Lawton says to do is to always know who's in your crew. Know them personally. That, or, you know, at least do detailed background checks on them. And, you know, people can rat you out and still take their share. And that's going to be the hardest part, is to, you know, establish honor among thieves, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, rats are going to be a hard thing to deal with. But you know, the best thing you can do is trust, or you could be like Jimmy in Goodfellas and just kill all of them. just put them in meat freezers or something.
Just have them keep disappearing until you're the only one left.
And then in that situation, you can take all the money because who's going to use it at that point?
Yeah, there you go.
So that's how I would deal with that. What else?
And I just think the hardest part would be to get from the bank away without being followed or tailed or. I just think that.
But
would be really
what would be the who would be tailing me? Like cops?
Yeah, I mean they're going to be instantly on the alert. The second you walk out the door, they're going to call the police.
But what about the things in movies where people say count down from 90 before you try to call the police? I guess they're on the honor system, but you just pointed a gun at them.
I guess unless you had them zip tied and gagged, and then left, maybe you would have it. But you're going to have enough time to get from the building out of sight without somebody seeing what kind of car you have, or.
Yeah, that's why most thieves park their car around back, so the least people can see them. I guess. Yeah. And this may seem like a dark conversation, which it is, but we're trying to be as light as possible. What else?
I think that's you've pretty much covered everything.
I mean, being questioned by the FBI is, that would be hard, but not impossible. I mean, they're gonna obviously hook you up to a lie detector test, which it's not like anybody has falsely passed a lie detector test.
Right.
But if I, Jack Ellis, were to go into a bank and rob it, my hardest thing would probably be controlling your nerves. Because I'm a guy that tends to freak out about things. I love watching bank robberies and movies, but I don't think I'd really have, the nerves of steel to do something like it. And, some people can rob multiple banks, like the ex-presidents. I think it'd just be hard enough to get away with one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same principle, I don't get why people cheat on their wives. I mean, it's hard enough just to have one of them.
Right.
So, we all watch good movies, especially during COVID-19. But the important thing is, with movies, even not just bank robbery movies like the Thomas Crown Affair, The Italian Job, Rafifi, Ocean's 11. All of those are great movies, and I'm not saying that they're not, but it's important to realize that they're just that, movies. And, and even movies like Die Hard, they had a pretty good heist plan. They had everything under control if it weren't for John McClane. But it's important to realize that no matter how clever a plan that murderers and robbers might have, they're still not doing the right thing. And please just keep that in mind. Dad and I and the Enterprise of Cinema Conversation, which is just me, you, and my bedroom, is the important thing to realize is that we don't condone this kind of behavior. If I had the chance, I would probably go to try to stop bank robbers. Crime doesn't pay, no matter how much you want it to.
Right.
Because bank robbers, they, like I said earlier, only make $8,000 per robbery. According to real life statistics, to meet the poverty line, you would have to rob 3 banks a year and take all the money.
Yeah. Doesn't hardly seem worth it.
Yeah. So, but if you were to rob jewelry, but then you'd have to get a fence, and that's just a whole other animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are great movies, but please don't rob banks or convenience stores or jewelry stores. It's not worth it, So, in closing, so who do you think won this debate?
Oh, I think you won.
yeah, I had the more long-winded arguments. The benefits of watching too many movies. Let me know what you think. Who won? Did Dad win? Do you honestly think that I, the person that sits before you, could rob a bank? And in the meantime, I'm Jack Ellis.
And I'm Jeff Ellis.
Cinema Conversation.